Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Board of Mayor and Alderman work session for September the 7th, 2023 at 8 a.m. First item on the agenda is, are there any public comments? Anyone here for public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. In your package, your board package included is the work session minutes for July the 6th, 2023. Are there any corrections for these minutes? Hearing none, we'll go on to the review of the August the 3rd work session minutes. Does anyone have any corrections to these minutes? If not, we'll move on to the next section. This is requested reports and action requests. First up, we have Mr. Will Thomas he is the chairman of the IDB board. And he'll be scooting out of here right after his presentation. He has another appointment. So Will's going to talk with us today about the pilot program.
I wasn't sure if I was doing a PowerPoint or this. So I've got 8 of these, and I'll look at my computer to walk you through. There's not a lot on each one. There's 18 pieces of paper.
Thank you.
It won't take 18 minutes. Through the, I think it's the genesis of this conversation was through the counties working through their budget and trying to get all the budget settled. Some of their commissioners had asked questions about pilots and what pilots are and how pilots work. And I was telling Donna that, and she was like, "It would be great if you wanted to come present in a work session, just to make sure everybody on our team understands, how these things come to fruition and why we do them and how they work." So when I'll go through it, and then if you have any questions at the end, I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't know the answer, we'll get you an answer to how it works. So when I think about pilots, the first thing we think about, the reason we do them is economic recruitment and development. Is the sole reason we do it, and we believe in that because we think if we can create a growing economy, we all can benefit from it. So that's one of the first sheet there you see is economic recruitment. The next sheet is this a flow chart, and I think this makes sense to everybody, but it starts with job creation. If we can create job creation, we can create more property revenue. If we create more, and as we create those jobs, those people will move here. And if they move here, then they're going to spend money here. And so now we get sales tax revenue from retailers, and we also get more property tax revenue from those retailers. And then people's houses, as the population grows, we get more real estate tax revenue. And so that's what that flow chart is. And I apologize to the audience. I know you can't see what I'm presenting. The next slide is a picture of the Southeast. And a lot of times with pilot programs, one of the questions, and I'll talk a little bit, is, well, why do these things come up? How do they come up? And when we're competing with industry, recruiting industry, it's great when it's just we're the only one in Tennessee and we're just competing against other states because then we have the state on our side. But there's a lot of times we're competing with towns in Tennessee plus towns in other states, and it's very competitive. The Southeast is booming, we all know that. But there's a lot of towns in the Southeast that want this industry that's looking for places to move to. And so we're trying to sell the community. Normally in that process, and it's not the first conversation, not the second one, but the third or fourth, they say, well, what kind of incentives do you have? And they ask the state that, they ask the county that, they ask the city that, and they ask them everywhere, what kind of incentives? And that's usually where, if a pilot comes up, it comes up. It definitely does not come up at the very beginning because you don't even know what to talk about when it comes to pilot. And I'll explain more about pilot here in a second, about what it is. The next slide is three screenshots. I just captured these yesterday just to show you the type of incentives just in our area. So the one in the top left is a Food City announcement coming to Huntsville. I think highlighted in purple it talks about the city of Huntsville has given them a $9 million sales tax benefit that the city of Huntsville thinks it will recapture through the development of those stores. But the city of Huntsville gave that incentive to get Food City to build there. And the city of Huntsville is one of the top 3, 4 in the country to move to, according to U.S. News. Is it News and Week? News and Weekly? I get that confused. The last 3 years, they've been in the top 3 or 4. And so even a city that's as prosperous as that is giving these incentives. The one on the right, top right, that's a Walmart automation investment that Walmart's making in Coleman. You see there, the city of Coleman gave them a $20 million tax abatement program for that development. And then at the bottom there is Bowling Green, Kentucky. Bowling Green's a thriving market, doing well. And what was interesting, I just Googled these 3 real fast. I just put like Huntsville, Alabama, tax incentives. Bowling Green, Kentucky, tax incentives. And so these things are pretty easy to find. But I put these on here to help even myself understand, why do we do this? Well, we don't want to give any money away, new money away, if we can help it. The next slide is from a presentation I went to in Huntsville a couple weeks ago. It was people that do development in Huntsville and real estate in Huntsville. And I thought this was a really interesting slide here. This is a slide that the Huntsville City presented to this real estate group about the investments Huntsville City has made since 2014. I know it's shot kind of at an angle. I didn't have a great seat, but you can still see the numbers pretty well there. And there's not one there I think is more important than the other ones, but I think it shows the amount of money these cities are investing to make the city a place that people want to move to, and the incentives they're trying to give. Because even Huntsville has spent $210 million on property, and somebody asked them, well, what are we spending all that money on? And it's buying property they think can be developed. So the Huntsville looks at it and goes, hey, there's some prime real estate that we want to make sure we control, which is kind of a, you know, I guess you could debate that. Does the city really need to control prime real estate? But it's like industrial property is some of that. And so there's been $210 million since 2014. The other number on here that I think is very important for us is from economic development is the quality of life assets. Since 2014, Huntsville spent $310 million on quality of life. That would be rec center, parks, anything outdoors, tennis center, things that when people are looking at communities, that's one of the first questions we get. We get questions about schools, and we get questions about, well, what do you do outside of work? What kind of restaurants do you have? What kind of parks do you have? Those are always questions we get up front. The next slide is just showing population growth of the towns I've talked about, just for reference. I think it's important to see those, that all those towns are growing, and some growing faster than other ones, but what they're doing is working in their communities. All right, so pilot, the next slide. The main reason I know you think I'm here. So I remember when I first was on the Industrial Development Board, oh man, what year was that? It was a long time ago, maybe 17 years ago, 16 years ago. And we were meeting, Ron Mayhall was the chairman, and we were meeting at the airport. And in the meeting, they started talking about pilots. And I thought they were talking about airplane pilots. I mean, not only were we at the airport, but I didn't know what a payment in lieu of taxes was. I never heard that term. And I remember being confused and a little embarrassed to even ask anything because I'm on this board and I probably should know this and I don't know it. But I never had any education on that. And so I started getting an education back then on how these things work. And so PILOT stands for Payment in Lieu of Taxes. There's 2 types of property taxes, and we probably all know that. You have real property taxes and personal property taxes. Real property, and those are the next few slides. Real property taxes are defined as things that are not movable from property. So a building on a piece of land. State of Tennessee says a mobile home is real property. So anything that's not movable is real property. Personal property are things like computers, printing press, a chip machine, right? All those things are personal property. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. So you got real property is the next slide, personal property is the next. And then a possible misconception, and these are the couple of questions I get sometimes from people in the community, and I don't get these a lot, but occasionally it'll come up, somebody will ask a question about it. And one is, I had somebody tell me one time they didn't understand why we're abating existing taxes, why we're giving somebody a break that's already here. And that's a great question, because you definitely could think that when you hear about these programs. These programs are no way intended to give somebody a tax break on something they're already doing. The pilot programs for like a Frito-Lay, which is in a couple of slides, I have an example of it. The last pilot they got was based on the investment they made on their new packaging system. So it had nothing to do with their existing building, existing lines. It was all the development they came to us and said they want to do. Now, when they came to us, and I remember meeting with them, we met with them in the state out here at Frito-Lay, and we met with PepsiCo's head of development. And the conversation was around, it's between us and Arkansas to get this project. So even Frito-Lay is competing with other Frito-Lay facilities to get the project. And so they came to us and they came to the state too and said, how can you help us out? Our employees are great, our team has great operation metrics, but we need some monetary incentives. That's where the pilot came about. And then the pilot was only on the new equipment, the new building, not the existing building. So it did not cost the revenues of the city or county any money it was already getting. And then over time, that pilot lowers in abatement, and then we'll look at that in a second. So that's one misconception. The next worksheet, pretty sure this comes from the state, puts this little worksheet out. It's got a lot of numbers on it. I'll let you digest those later if you want. The point I put the sheet in here is that we do holistically look at what investment they're making and what this worksheet says the jobs will lead to in sales tax revenue and wages. So when we look at these pilot programs, we're not looking at it just going, well, how much building are you going to make? Let's just give you a pilot. We want to know how many jobs they're going to do, create, and then also based on this worksheet, it gives us a sense of what's the sales tax revenue from those employees going to generate for the community. So that's part of the holistic view we're trying to take when we make these decisions. The next sheet is the Frito-Lay example. I won't go through it again because I explained it already, but you'll see on the printout you have, the yellow area was the area that was, the parking was expanded, doubled or tripled, and then that ASRS GES is their state-of-the-art distribution center. It's got all kinds of pallet little robot things that go up and pick and pack these boxes. That was a major investment they made. And that we did extend a pilot to them that then tails off over time. The next sheet is two examples of pilots. These are real examples in the community. The left one is the Frito-Lay. The right one is CNS. I think this is where these things get a little confusing. Sometimes these things are written up two different ways. So the one on the left for Frito-Lay is percentage reduction of taxes otherwise payable. So that's how much their taxes were reduced. So you'll see in 2019, their taxes were reduced 82%. The next year they were reduced 76%, and then they keep coming down. So not only do we pick up all the jobs, but then every year after that, we're also getting more tax revenue. The one on the right is, I believe this was CNS Plastics. There's just I think it was a 5-year, maybe a 6-year. That's 5 years. The first year they didn't pay any tax on the investment they made. But then the next year they pay 20% tax. The next year they pay 40%, 60%, 80%, and then it's 100%. And once the real property, once you depreciate, sometimes people say, well, what if they depreciate all that personal property equipment, and then they want another pilot? I guess in theory they could do that, but they're only going to go spend more money to create more jobs, right? Like they're not going to depreciate everything just to go out of business. So that could be in the equation, but the real property, the building does depreciate, but the land doesn't It appreciates. So over time, you're getting more tax revenue. And I've got some county numbers in here I can show you. It'd be great to spread the city numbers. I don't have those. Those on the last sheet. We'll look at that in a second. But these are 2 examples of pilots. Any questions so far or on this sheet? Because I think this is where sometimes my head spins around.
Well, I've got a question real quick.
Yeah.
So, like, say a company comes in, has a building, and for the first, like, it says right here, tax year 2022, 2023, they pay 0% in taxes, correct? And let's say they close their doors.
Right.
They, within that 2 years, they lay off people and they don't open and they close.
Right.
And they leave. Do they pay any taxes at all, or do they just?
Well, we got a real world example. I mean, JCF would be a good example of that.
Okay.
In theory, that we have a lien on those taxes, and they're supposed to pay those taxes.
Okay.
Now, if they file bankruptcy, that's a whole nother conversation if we recover anything.
Okay.
But the way the lease agreements are written up is we get made whole if they don't fulfill their side of the deal.
Okay.
If they, where it gets a little gray, if they say they're going to do 150 jobs and they do 125, that's kind of heartburn because like, are we going to attack an industry that's got 125, employees? I don't know if that ever happening. Actually, the JCF is the one that I've seen here that went south.
Right.
Now, the thing about that is now, when that building is sold, it'll be back on the tax roll. Like there won't be any tax abatement. Now, an industry that comes in there might say, "Can you help us out?" But it's not like the pilot program goes with that building.
Okay.
That building will be, and that building probably now is worth $10 or $12 million. Just the building itself in today's cost. So yeah, good question on that for sure.
Well, another question, Will, for you is, being on the FPU board, they can't sustain any more pilot industry coming in. We can't, because they're so far down the line of infrastructure getting utilities there. So how can we do that? Has FPU, do y'all get FPU involved? Because there's a lot of times I sit down in meetings and they're talking about the land down south state line. We can't sustain nothing there. We can't get the power to them. We can't get the water. We can't get.
Well, I think.
So how do we?
So like the Horizon Park, which I know the county's is paying for that. The benefit we've already seen is TDOT has told us they're going to put an access road into that property for a little over $2 million. TDOT money, state money, no money out of the local communities' coffers. The state has also always been very supportive of Lincoln County, Fayetteville, Tennessee. Really like impressively supportive. Like I'm always impressed with how much they show up, how much they help. And TVA too, same way. So we've never had an industry that at the end of the day, the state and TVA wasn't willing to help us fix it.
The products are they're so backed up. I think we got maybe another couple of years of inventory or something like that.
Are you talking about like generators or transformers?
Anything, transformers and stuff. So if something was happening in Lincoln County, Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's the problem all over the country.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know how we sustain another pilot. I'm all for pilots coming in, but I just don't know how we can. The empty building that they just left would be fine, but another building, how do we get power to them?
Yeah, that's an FPU question. I don't.
That's what I'm saying. Do y'all get FPU involved? Should the IDB board should the IDB board be involved with FPU before we bring another pilot in?
Yeah, so we're not. The pilot doesn't have anything to do with the generator. That's between the company and the utility and their engineers.
Right, but I don't know if they're aware that they can get the power there to.
Yeah, I know certain projects, certain types of generators are hard to get. I don't think it's a blanket. They're all hard to get. That's not my understanding. My understanding there's certain types that can be hard, and the lead times are 26 weeks, 52 weeks. But if you're going to build a building, it's going to take 52 weeks, 18 months to construct. Yeah. So I don't. The pilot doesn't really have anything to do with that. The pilot's not making us have a loss of inventory of generators, right? That's more of a supply across the country issue, which will cure itself and probably boomerang back the other way, and then they'll have too many at some point.
Not a problem.
Any other thoughts? All right. Let's see. Your pages aren't numbered, but the next page is the Arians donates to STEM. And so this is a question that the county mayor, he was asking me about pilots and, wanting to, frankly, he's been public about saying, don't vote for pilots, which from an economic development standpoint is kind of saying you don't want to spur economic development. And so I met with him, and this is one of the things we discussed was Arians is getting a pilot. Arians has already given $80,000 to create a new STEM bus for training of our kids growing up so they can be trained in the skills they need to go get well-paying jobs. Arians has also put in the back of their factory area they're paying for. They've put in a welding area to teach welding to students. And so the industry, most industries are good stewards in the communities they're in. They want to invest in the communities. Arians is exceptional, privately owned. They don't have shareholders they have to appease. They're even better, really, because it's all about their family and their family's success and their company's success. They don't have to answer to anybody else. And so while Arians is getting a tax benefit, they're donating the money back in the community. Is the point there. One thing on their pilot, it says 2022 0%, but they weren't operational. They just actually just had the ribbon cutting about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. And that's what the picture is there of the ribbon cutting. Governor Lee came down to show you how important that project was for the state. Governor Lee came down for the announcement last year, and then he came down for the ribbon cutting. So very impressive to get him to come to two things for one company. It shows the importance of that project. And I think the belief the state has that it'll be for this community, the impact it'll have for this community. The last sheet there, I think it's the last, no, third to last sheet. This is the investments made by industry in Lincoln County. Most of this is in the city of Fayetteville. I know like Hero Tech is not, but most of this is in the city of Fayetteville, like 99% of it. Since 2010, industry has made an investment of $635 million in this community, which is kind of crazy for me to think about. You'll see some of the biggest numbers on there are Frito-Lay. You'll see the Laura solar farm. I know that it's not in the city. As an example of they're getting a pilot with that, but even with their pilot, the taxes on that property went this year from $13,000 a year. That's what the Greenbelt taxes on that property were, $13,000 a year. This year, the solar farm will pay $113,000. So $100,000 more dollars, and every year after that, it'll be more money that the county will be receiving. So that's a good example of where the pilots are not intended to abate or lower tax revenues. The pilots are intended to generate economic development that leads to more tax revenues, sales tax and property tax over time. The next sheet, I wish I had this for the city. I didn't have this data for the city, I had it for the county. I would say the city hopefully looks like it. Similarly, on the bottom line there, you see taxes levied. I thought this was impressive. In 2013, the county collected $11 million in property taxes. In 2020, they collected $15.5 million. I wish my company's profits grew like that. That's impressive revenue that they have grown. So even with any kind of abatement programs, they've seen that kind of growth. And we also have not seen population growth, so we can't say that's all come from new houses either, right? And then the last slide is just questions. So any other things on pilots? I mean, those are good questions. And
Will, if we raise taxes in the city, does that mean that the taxes go up for Frito-Lay as well?
yes,
It does? Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming today, Will. If anybody has any questions, please shout them out to Will, or you'll see him on the street and you can maybe have a discussion.
Yeah.
We appreciate this because we do have some new aldermen or some aldermen on the board that may not have gone through a new industry coming in and about the pilot. So it kind of gives us more information so we can use out in the public when talking to people.
Yeah,
So,
appreciate it. And if you want to, I mean, the industrial board meets the third Monday every month, 7 a.m. out at Malu. So, more than welcome to come to that. The work session's at 7 and meetings at 7:30. So, it's over by 8 normally. So, more than welcome to come to any of those too.
And also, it is very competitive. Going around the state to the different conferences, it's very competitive. And you don't realize how did they find, like Arians, how did they find small Fayetteville and just made their decision here?
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate. So
Yeah.
thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on next, we have Commissioner Daniel Eldridge here this morning, and he wants to talk to us and present to us the county comprehension plan. And he spent many, many hours on this. I know I've been meeting with him, and so Daniel, you have the floor.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come this morning. I'm going to keep it brief because I know you have a long agenda. But it's interesting what Will just talked about is going to dovetail. I think what I'm saying is dovetails very nicely with what he just went over with you. I think it's very complimentary. As you probably know, the county has asked our county planning commission to help develop or to start the development of a comprehensive plan. And this is an extremely important project because what it does, it offers just a big picture view of growth and development for the county as a whole and the city, of course. And there are lots of communities around the state that have comprehensive plans. This is a common thing that people do. A good one that I would suggest that you look at is Williamson County. We went and talked to them a couple of weeks ago, and they have a very good comprehensive plan. It's online. Most of these are online. And basically what they have done is everybody knows the extensive growth that they've undergone up there, but they wanted to grow. They're being so close to Nashville. They knew they would get a lot of growth, but they also wanted to preserve their agricultural community as well. And so they've done a really good job of marking out where growth and development would be for both industry and housing, and then to maintain their rural environment. So what I'm here today for is to just give you some information. We're just now getting started. We've got a meeting tonight, Planning Commission meeting tonight, and we'll finalize a lot of these initial plans, but we're at the very beginning. But I just wanted to come kind of unofficially just to give you some information on what we're doing. I got 8 copies, so if you guys got me, Sharon, you can pass it around. It's important. We've identified 6 different characteristics that we want to see in this plan. We want to make sure that it's inclusive, that we get all the stakeholders to provide feedback, and that's every citizen in the city and county, as well as all the different interests. We want it to be transparent, so we want it to be widely publicized so that people know what's going on here. We want it to be actionable. This is not just an academic exercise where we develop another study and put it on the bookshelf. That's a waste of everybody's time, and frankly, I don't want to be a part of that. So we want this to come out with actionable items that we can actually implement and have some results. We want it to be reasonably aspirational, which means it's aggressive, it's ambitious, but it's realistic, and they're goals that we can accomplish. We want it to be timely. There are a lot of issues that have already come up the last 2 months on the county side that are kind of dependent on this. To your point, Mr. Martinez talking about communication, and as we have new industry come in, everybody needs to be talking to each other because there are some issues that just don't happen. And I understand why it happens because everybody's busy. But this plan the development will allow us to plan together, and the execution will allow us to communicate and operate together much more efficiently. And finally, the final characteristic we want to see is efficient. There are a lot of studies that are out there. I know the downtown master plan that was completed here a couple of years ago. I talked to Christy about that, and there's a lot of plans out there. Our county transportation department has some. The ADA plan. There's lots of things out there that are kind of just separately sitting out there, and what we want to do is bring them all together and have our consultant look at all those and implement all those when they're developing this plan, and be much more efficient and save a lot of costs. So that's kind of our goals. The sheet that I gave you is kind of our notional approach. Again, we've not officially done this, but I'm assuming this is what we're going to go with tonight. But this kind of gives you an outline of how we're going to approach this. Down at the bottom, you see stakeholder engagement, and we're going to use every means that we possibly can to publicize this, to make sure that everybody's involved and gets a chance to have a voice here. This is about a year-long process. So we're planning on having town hall meetings around the county at all the different communities. We're going to stand up a website, have some social media, go on YTM, Elk Valley Times, all the resources that we have available. We're going to try to make sure that everybody knows how they can have input into this, because what this does, it allows the citizens to determine how they want the county to grow. All that input will be funneled into a steering committee. And this is where you guys come in. We wanted to establish a steering committee that will kind of guide the development of this plan. We're going to get a lot of ideas. Some of them are competing ideas. And somebody has to sift through that and make sure that the plan gets formed and guided in the way that we want it to go. So the idea there is to get everybody at the table that has skin in the game here. And certainly the city is a big player there. So we would like to, we'll be issuing invitations to folks to do this. And we anticipate, maybe the mayor on there, maybe the chairman of the City Planning Commission, Mr. Donaldson. And if you guys have other suggestions, certainly we'd like to honor that too. But we just want to make sure that the city is represented there and is involved, and their ideas can help guide how we're doing this. So once all the information gets fed up into the steering committee, they will work with our consulting firm. We're in the process of putting together an RFP right now. There are lots of firms out there who do this, and they're very good at it. If you go, you can spend 10 minutes online and you can see a lot of these, and they're really good documents. So this firm, the steering committee will kind of guide this firm and how this project will be developed. Up at the top, you see the existing data. These are some of those studies that I was talking about, and there's a lot more. Every day I'm hearing of things that I didn't know that existed. Elaine Milton over at the IDB, she has some good reports and studies that can funnel into this. And the idea is that during the RFP process that we'll have a reading room, a virtual reading library out on the web, and all these documents go on there. It would include our subdivision regulations, zoning regs, everything that has any influence on growth or development will be in that library and will be utilized by this firm. So all these will go into kind of guiding this plan. The Planning Commission will kind of oversee that, and then we'll give information back to the County Commission as necessary. We're not asking for any funding right now. We might, and it might be to your advantage to do that. I know I'm not, I don't have the details on this, but I know there are some things like the Parks and Recreation Plan. I think the city and county were working together on. I don't know where we are on that. I don't know if that's still moving or not, but if you have initiatives like that you'd like to see get done, it's probably more expensive to do that as a standalone item than it is to roll it into this. If it pertains to growth and development, it might be a good opportunity to roll it into this plan, this comprehensive plan, have this firm look at it as well in context with all these other things, and get a deliverable out that you can use that'll save you some money. So there are also going to be some administrative costs with doing this. If we have mailers, for example, to the citizens, there's a little over 15,000 households in the county. If we were to do that, there would be a cost there. So there's some other costs associated with it. But right now what I'm here to do is just provide you the information to just tell you that we would love to hopefully in the very near future issue an invitation to have your participation on this steering committee so you can kind of be a part and participate. And we're hopeful that this will get off the ground fairly quickly. And I think it's critically important. I also serve on the IDB Oversight Committee, and so Will was talking about all this. It resonates with me. You, just like the county, have just gone through a very painful tax process, and the way to keep taxes low is to increase your tax base. And when we want to grow, you go across the state line and there's no question that growth is coming. There's lots of pressure that way. There's lots of pressure from the north down. We will be growing, and we need to do it in a way that's responsible and that's efficient and that protects the areas that we want to protect, and that we can get infrastructure that we're communicating and make sure we know well in advance where the infrastructure has to grow. So there's a lot of benefits here, and we would like for you guys to participate. So are there any questions?
Do you have any questions? Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very
for coming,
much.
And we look forward to working with you. I have spoken with Winchester's new mayor, recent elect mayor, and he is dealing with the exact things that you're talking about. The growth happens so quickly there near the lake, and most of the growth is second homes. So that's kind of hurting them, but helping them too, because they live somewhere else. They come in on the weekends, but they still have to have sewer. They still have to have water. They can't widen the roads quick enough. They're used to, around the lake, they're used to a little 2-lane road, just tar and chip. And, now they need bigger roads. So they're definitely hurting with growing pains over there, which is a good thing. And hopefully if we can get this off the ground and work together, maybe our growing pains won't be as severe.
Right. We need to get out in front of it. But those are good problems to have, but we hope to mitigate those so that they become opportunities for us. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along on the agenda, next we have Houston Matthews from Croy Engineering, and he will be discussing the downtown sidewalks bids, the results, and the project update.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Wanted to give you a quick recap on the recent activity and correspondence we've had with the single bidder. As you know, we opened bids on the downtown sidewalk project. There was one bidder, and their bid was $2.6 million. Following that, we asked the bidder to negotiate their price for a different scope in an effort to try to reduce their price. They returned back a number to us that was $1.46 million. That negotiation included the blocks of Main Avenue South, Main Avenue North, and Market Street. Following the presentation of that meeting, I sent an email using the updated bid prices, the negotiated bid prices, and the original bid prices to try to formulate some options. And I think you may have that in front of you. It's an email from me. And then following the Public Works Committee meeting, input from that meeting, there's some estimates there of some potential projects, and they're just by block. So they're classified by the different blocks. And in the Public Works Committee meeting, it was asked, what would a project look like if we substituted the Main Avenue North block for this block, Elk Avenue. That project is, again, estimated about a $100,000 reduction, but $1.37 million project. So similar to what we talked about in the Public Works Committee. So I used that and just substituted in some different blocks to give you some different options on what potential contract prices may be if you mixed and changed what the project may be. So I can go into more detail if you need it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let me tell the board the reason I brought up this side versus the west side. You know the reason.
Yes, sir.
But we've discussed that. The reason I brought that up was 3 reasons. I've got 3 reasons for doing this side instead of the west side, if the board would consider it. Of course, number 1 is cost. You just mentioned pretty good reduction in cost. Actually, it's about $87,000 according to your estimate. Another thing I look at is the safety issue on this side versus the other side. And these steps out here, the way they're designed, you got handrails down through there in different places, but there's nothing to guide people to those handrails. So they end up going up them steps out there with those pavers without any handrails a lot of times. I've picked people up off the sidewalk out there myself, where they fell and got hurt. So to me, with the traffic we got going in this drugstore over here, that traffic, a lot of that foot traffic going in there is physically challenged people. I mean, you know, we got people getting up in age and they're still going to the drugstore and all, and it's kind of difficult. So the cost is one thing, the safety issue is another, but a big one to me is this. We're applying for this multi-mobile grant. I believe they call it a transportation grant. I don't know if we'll get it. I have no idea, but I'm going on the thing if we do get it, if we were to get it. If we were to get that grant, that's about something over $1 million. I don't remember, it's 1.2. And I think we got a match with 20% or something like that maybe.
10%.
But that, if we got that grant could be used on the west side over there because that's a state highway. So that grant can be used right on state road. That grant cannot be used over here. This is a private street over here, city street, so that grant cannot be used over here. So it was mentioned that we might be able to get some other type of grant that would do a TAP grant, I believe, that might do over here. Well, we're getting into a lot of max because the truth of the matter is we've not been getting these grants that we've been applying for. Hopefully, maybe we could. So, you know, the reason I thought about over here instead of over there is for that reason. I don't want this block to be left out to where it's sitting over here and nothing done, with a possibility if we got the multi-mobile grant, it would do the north side and would do the west side over here. We'd leave this side out. We'd be left out unless there was some other type of grant that we actually did get. So that's the three reasons I kind of wanted to kind of bring that up. The safety part of it is, to me, is a big issue because on your design, from what I can see, and I won't take long on this because this is a long meeting, but I'm only looking at this side over here. It looks like to me the way this is designed is basically you got two levels of sidewalks, lower level, upper level sidewalks. It looks like other than the end where you come in from the streets, it's designed to route that foot traffic down to where there's some handrails for people to go up, right? So from what I'm looking at here, it looks like at least in most of the places right here, they would be routed to where there's handrails at because you got planters and you got, you know, we got different things right here, a seat wall and planters and all in between there to keep people from just stepping up over that and going in. So to me, this plan that we're looking at here, brings in safety, kind of like that plan over yonder in front of that furniture store. And that, to me, that's a pretty big issue, the safety.
Well, in this block, you have the significant grade difference between
Right.
the store level and street level,
Right.
which is the reason for a lot of those grade breaks in the form
Yeah.
of seat walls. And
And
so-
now the way it is, people can get out of their vehicle if they're in between where those handrails are. They're going to go straight up them steps. They're not going to go down them handrails. Number one, you can't get down there to them hardly, and they're going to probably try to go up without the handrails. Look, from design of this, it looks like to me it would be routing the individuals to where they would be routed to where there would be handrails. Now they might have to walk a little further, you know, might have to get a little exercise. So I just kind of wanted to put that out for the board to kind of think about. And that's the other two options you had. I can see why. That would be.
A slight clarification on the multimodal grant application. So the city has applied for a multimodal
Yeah.
grant application for sidewalks, and there's some of that work is on the College Street block, but I think it's an assumption at this point that if you are awarded that grant, those funds could then be used for the North Main Street block. There have to be some
right away.
coordination. It's eligible for those funds, but it wasn't included. In my recollection, there were no sidewalks included on that North Main Street block in that application. So in order to change that, if you were awarded those funds, you'd have to have some coordination and the approval of you know, the grant and TDOT to make that change into the scope. That's maybe possible. It may not. I don't know for sure, but
Well, it certainly wouldn't work over here at all.
This block is not eligible. No,
It's out. It's-
correct. This block is not eligible.
Right. So-
College Street is eligible. Main Street North is eligible.
Okay. But I know that the west side over there could be eligible because it is on state right of way.
Correct. Yes, sir.
It could be. I mean, it's a pretty good possibility. So I think what's going on here, a lot of it's the money too. If we go with three options, we're gonna have to come up with about $300,000 out of fund balance. But if we go with that over yonder, we're gonna come up about $400,000. Over here, we're going to come up about $300,000, a little more. So already we're talking about putting $300,000 in. So then if we get in a situation where there's nothing to do this over here at all, no matter what that multi-mobile would do, even if it didn't do the west side for some reason, it's certainly not going to do this side. Then we're going to end up, we don't even have a chance at all over here probably. We're going to end up over here with another $300,000 or $400,000 to come out of fund balance. And that's kind of the reason I was kind of looking to clear this enough over here, because we got a whole lot better chances of getting funding anywhere else than what we do right here. That's kind of what I was looking at. We could end up here with close to $1 million out of fund balance.
Or pursue separate funds, separate grants available that could be eligible here. So
We know that this side, the bond issue can do this side, there's no doubt about it, because we control that. State don't have anything to do with it. We know for a fact it can do this side. We know it can. There's no doubt about it. And to hope that we get something other than the multi-mobile or whatever, hoping it would do this side, we might, but it's not a sure thing. If we were to end up, say, around the square with everything done, if we did get that other grant, if we don't get it, it's not going to happen anyway. But everything else done, and we can't get anything from over here, we're going to be sitting here with a town square with maybe 3 sides done, maybe down yonder, and maybe something else. It's depending on how that multi-mobile can be used, because we got to put a couple $100,000 into that grant anyway. So I just think that this side could end up with no funding. That's what I'm afraid of. And I mean, it could. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know one thing. If we do it out of the bond issue, and we consider the safety issue with the elderly people coming in and out on this side and all, if we take into account the savings up front, it was safe to do it. It's worth a consideration of the board taking a look at it. That's the reason I brought it up. Now, as far as the businesses is on each side, I could care less about what businesses were. I'm not even looking at what buildings is anywhere. I'm just looking at money issues and safety issues. That's what I'm looking at. Thank you.
from a bid administrative standpoint, we've opened bids. There's a decision to be made by this body on how you may want to move forward with a contract of some sort, a negotiated contract. Per the bid package, the bid is to be held by the bidder for 60 days. If there's not a recommendation to move forward at this meeting or in this cycle, then we need to ask the bidder to extend his bid, or it really becomes null at some point, and we're starting over. So there's a technical piece there that, and I can't speak for the bidder. They've been very open to the conversations that we've had so far. They've submitted revised negotiated pricing. They seem encouraged to continue to move forward, but we haven't had that conversation yet. And they called me, the contractor, the bidder called me before this meeting, and I laid out your process and how that may work out. So they're waiting on a decision from this body on how they may move forward, or if they're asked to, submit formal pricing on another circumstance.
Well, we got a
scope.
set of 4 numbers in front of us, 4 or 5, maybe 5 numbers in front of us. The truth of the matter is, we got the numbers in front of us. We beat this sidewalk thing to death already. We put off, let me back up. Something has put off and put off and put off that project. And it's put off that project long enough that I would like to see us do what we're gonna do or not do or whatever we're gonna do. That's just me speaking now.
I agree
Because
with
this thing's been put off too long. It should have never, we should have been dealing with this stuff a year ago, but I don't know how long ago, but I don't know why it kept getting pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And I brought up several times myself, when are we gonna get on and move on with this? So to me, I'm at a point right now, I hope the board will make a decision to go with one of these numbers or not go with anything, because the longer we continue to put this off, it's not gonna get no better. I mean, this thing ain't gonna get no better. It's only gonna go downhill. It's not gonna get any better than where we are right now. So we got 5 options right there in front of us. I'm for option number 2, moving on. That's what I'm for.
Kevin, when are we gonna hear about that other grant?
That's is awarded in the wintertime, usually around Christmas, maybe a little before or afterwards. I think a presentation comes October. That's part of the application, but we will not expect to hear anything until around Christmas time.
And we also have the sidewalk project bid discussion and selection in our Public Works Department. Would it be okay with the board that we move and go make a decision or discuss it in the Public Works?
That's next month.
That's, we're wanting.
No, it's on the agenda for today.
Oh, okay.
Under Public Works,
That's fine with
downtown
me.
sidewalk
Yeah,
project
yeah.
bid discussion
Yeah,
selection.
yes, that's fine with me.
Instead
Yeah,
of with Houston, that we can
Gotcha.
move it down
Yeah.
here and let everybody open up and see
Yeah.
what their choices
That's
are.
fine with me. I'm just putting options out there, and I'm putting out there the reason that I asked for this side to be, because it needs to be explained. If I'm going to ask for something, any of us is going to ask for something that is not already on there. I don't know who come up with them 3, but it's a pretty good choice where it was. But if there's going to be any changes asked for, then whoever asked for the consideration or to explain them. And that's what I've done. I've explained them. Yeah, but I think you're right. We should take care of it.
So a few points of clarification. In this list of 5 that's in my email, the first one is the option, that was the negotiated bid price. So that's a formal return of information from the bidder.
Right.
The other 4 are estimated, and the reason that they're estimated is because I used the block pricing where eligible from the negotiated bid number per block, and then supplemented the block that wasn't negotiated with the original bid. What we've learned, and what the bidder did in his negotiated price when they're looking at those prices, those per block numbers went down very slightly, but they did reduce some in the negotiated bid. So there's a chance that if option 2, 3, 4, 5 is selected, we would then return that information back to the bidder, ask him to submit a formal negotiated bid price for the scope of project that's desired. And that number is not likely to match the number that I've got on here. This is just an estimate based on putting together 2 pieces of information. We did not want to, and I don't believe it's fair to go back to the bidder and say, hey, reprice everything. We want to give them some direction. So the contract number that may end up in front of you is likely to be a little bit different. Unless you take option number 1, it will likely be different based on their renegotiated prices for the scope that you select. There are a couple of other items, ways to reduce scope out of a project inside of the options. We've talked about that a little bit. 1 is the landscaping. 2 is the site furniture. You could eliminate either of those out of the project and just do the flat work. Those are fairly inconsequential numbers when you added them up on a block by block case. It's possible that you could purchase the site furniture separately, but there's an installation component that still goes along with it. So you could do a little bit, but the savings are going to be relatively minor. And you could eliminate all of the landscaping out of the project, but then you have the overall look to be left with, and you're probably going to see it, and then you're going to want, well, we might have had some of this in there and do some of that on your own. So there's a potential to save a little bit there if you do some in-kind work, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a large percentage.
And what you get into with that is you're trying to negotiate with a contractor, well, he put that stuff in, we're gonna charge extra to put it in, or someone install it. someone has to do it. And I think the general public, once we get through with this project, if we ever do, but whatever progress we make on it, I would like for it to look good. I wouldn't like for it to just be something out there with no planters and, and no nothing, just plain. I don't think that's a good improvement.
And finally, the option number one, the blocks that were selected, Kevin and I spoke about that, but we made that as a preliminary, not necessarily recommendation, but just a starting point to see if the bidder would be willing to negotiate prices with us. We started with the Main Street South and North, and then added the other block just because it was contiguous. It didn't feel like it would be beneficial to have separated blocks and just doing those, so that created a contiguous project. Also, knowing that the College Street block did have some of the MMA funds that were applied for included in that, and frankly, I just left the City Hall block out as for later, assuming that you could apply for a TAP grant for that. So there was a little bit of thought put into that, and it was more just contiguous. So but we made that recommendation, and just as a starting point.
It wasn't bad choices at all. I can see why you made those choices.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5 is this item was scheduled on the August 23rd work session. We had to cancel the meeting due to the lack of quorum. So this is an ordinance this is concerning the Occupational Safety and Health Program Plan. Davey Bergman and Jack Williams have worked very hard on this, so they'll speak to you at this time.
This is, it's nothing really new, it's just updating what we have, some of our contacts in our organizational chart, which we will have to update that once we get fully staffed on, as far as our director for our Parks and Recs. Once everything's final on that, we'll send them just that chart to update it. But we had to send this to TOSHA that shows that we're providing a safe environment for our employees. Jack and I are going to create a panel basically within every department so they can handle what's at Public Works, what's at the fire department, what's at 911, instead of me and Jack trying to do it on every one of them, because there might be some at Public Works they know better than we do. It's nothing really, it's just pretty much safety. I mean, they'll come in, they'll check all your electrical, make sure you don't have any grounding faults, make sure you're not overusing extension cords, your signages. We learned a lot about signages when Miss Bridget come down from TOSHA that we didn't know we supposed to have for like compressed air, for any kind of woodworking. You have to have sawdust cautions. So she's been very helpful for us, for the city, to giving us samples, and we have implemented a lot of that. During our inspection in July, she found about 5 violations within two facilities, which wasn't terrible. She called them serious violations, but they were fixed within 2 weeks. So it was like one of the panels wasn't labeled. It was built in the 70s and it had no label. So Jack and I, we went through and traced all the wires to what it ran, what it didn't run, and labeled it and sent it on. And BJ from 911, he corrected all his issues. His was signages, mounting fire extinguishers and stuff like that. So I think we're on top of everything, at least those 2 facilities. Our plan when they come back is hopefully, I'm sure they're going to find something, but it's not going to be extreme. And what we're asking for is just that ordinance to get passed where we can send that back to them saying that we have an updated safety plan for the city of Fayetteville.
Any questions?
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to the department reports, Director Plunkett.
Mayor, I think Mr. Owen has got about the first 3 here. He got more knowledge on them than I do.
Okay.
The first, I guess, under item A, number 1, Downtown Improvement Grant. This is the grant that was submitted and came before the board last month. The difference is we need a resolution because the city would be the actually applicant in the grant. So the match is still there and everything as far as the terms, but we do ask for adoption of this downtown improvement grant.
Now, you said that this had already been submitted.
Yes, yes,
This is just a formality.
yes. It's just the resolution part. Yes, sir.
Resolution part.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we can move that on. And item number 2, the Tourism Enhancement Grant.
Yes, ma'am. So the Tourism Enhancement Grant application is in process right now. This is a 50-50 grant that will be required of a match with the, from the city. As Vice Mayor Bryan pointed out, we can look at using tourism funds for that match, and we do have plenty of funds to meet that match. But this is an application through the Tennessee Department of Tourism to support, which is going to be a $100,000 grant application with the 50% coming from the city match. And as I said, this application is in process now. We're looking for a resolution in support.
So the total is 100,000.
Yes, yes. And we did take back, which, to see whether we can increase that. I think it had already started when we found out.
Couldn't increase it.
Yes, I think we had already started so far in the
Okay.
process.
Do we have a time we expect to hear from this grant?
This grant is an earlier cycle than the others. Their anticipation of making awards is mid-October.
So what's it going to be used for?
This would be used for support of restrooms, public restrooms.
To try to find property for it? or-
Anything, just
Anything
anything
to-
dealing with public restrooms. Yeah.
Okay. How often can you submit this grant? Is it just every once a year?
From my knowledge, this one's only once a year. Only once a year, yes.
How many times have we applied for this grant?
I have never known us to apply for it.
Yeah, this is the first one.
Yeah.
First one?
Yeah.
Are there any ideas in process right now for this public restroom that we haven't heard about?
We talked about it, it's no ideas, but we talked about it in Public Works.
Right.
So, and this is just my thoughts. I've never really been, I'm repeating myself here for whoever's in there. I've never I've not been against public restrooms at all. I think they're good, but the big thing is the location of them and how good, they need to be good. They need to, we need to, if we do it right, and they have to be maintained. We cannot have public restrooms on the square, and I'd rather see them on the square somewhere. If there's a building available, I'd rather see them right uptown on the square, available to the public. But they have to be, if we get them, they have to be clean. We can't have visitors coming in here with filthy restrooms. So that's part of the process that if we eventually get there, which maybe this is a start, somebody's going to have to figure out who's going to keep them clean. Because they're going to have to be clean. That's my idea. My idea is if we get public restrooms, I would like them to be in a place that are available to the public, easily available to the public, right out in where people can get to them. But we're not going to do it with $100,000.
So is this all this
Might start.
grant can be used for?
It can be used for a couple other things in tourism, but the way the application will be for the restroom breaks. And just a little bit, just to add, I guess in the strategic planning, restrooms we'll start looking for restrooms, and location was one of the plans we adopted. So at that time, I started looking at the National Restroom Public Restrooms Association. So they got a big website about 5 different things that they require with public restrooms, and they update you pretty regular. And as Vice Mayor says, that we got safety is a big concern, and whenever we decide on a location, I'm going to look at all 5 of those terms that are recommended by this national organization for public restrooms, and some mean cleanliness, ADA requirement. There's just a few things that they must have, and they get some really strong recommendations of what we need to have So whatever we do, they're gonna be guidelines by this.
First thing is a location.
We do, yes. And
First thing is location.
there's gonna be consideration and everything, whether ADA compliant, whether people can get up to them. Because if we do not have where people can get up to them, you're talking about lawsuits just from the start.
I think it's going, if we ever get them, I think they're going to have to be on the public sidewalks that's ADA approved to begin with.
Yeah.
Not off somewhere where the people can't get to them. But maybe this would be something that could be used to try to purchase a location to begin with, you know. Just thoughts. Now, we just talked about that in public works. That was just some of my comments. That's just my thinking. I remember you mentioned in the forum y'all had, you mentioned, I believe you mentioned the fact it's just one of them things you got to look at. It's about 50-50 on
Exactly, right.
kind of about what it is.
Right.
But I think.
Well, this board needs information. Information only if there are any plans, not plans, or any thoughts going
Right.
forward. So this is a big topic.
To do it right.
Yeah.
If we're going to do it, let's do it right. But if we're going to do it, we've got to start somewhere.
Well, city administrator and I have walked around, we've kind of looked at buildings around the square. Right now with the price of real estate, it's going to be hard to purchase a building, I think. It's going to take a lot of money. Also, I'm not sure that we want, this is my opinion, that we would want to take up retail or business space on the fronts of each side of the square, because we need sales tax revenue, we need, people using those buildings for tax, coming back to the city. We have met the police chief, Kevin Owens, myself, Jack Williams, maybe a couple of other people, have looked at the building directly behind this building. It is that 2-story brick building. It is owned by the city, so we would not have to purchase property. And I have mentioned this before. I know you guys have heard me say about that building. The police chief, and he might want to chime in, but he's looking at this building, if we could share it for restrooms and for the police department, he can use 1/2 of that to store evidence. The side probably where the garage door rolls up and down, he could use it for vehicles in there, whatever he needed. So he's in dire need of that type of storage. So then this building on the other side could be used for public restrooms. The sewer accesses are there. The water accesses are there. It has its own meter base or meter box or electrical box, I believe I'm right in that, Jack. So it already has that there. It is not right out in the front, but if you look at Lynchburg, their public restroom is off the square. It's not facing the square. It has directional signs to its bathroom. Bell Buckle, they are using an old building just off of the square. It's within walking distance. Ours, if we used that building, it would be a 1/2 block. Theirs is at least a 1/2 block away. So, commercial property is expensive, and we already own this property, so that would be a major savings there. You just have to do the renovation on that. And then you could also still use the upstairs for storage. There's a lot of city property in there, decorations. I think the chamber has some stuff in there. I'm not sure if Main Street does. But so it could be used for at least 3 different things instead of just a building sitting back there that is deteriorating. We've got a couple of windows broken out. We've got vines growing on the backside. So it's very near to the police department. It would be a safe location. All we would have to do is put up lighting on each end. And we even talked about, that alley there. It really needs to be made a one-way alley anyway, because if you're pulling out there between Putnam and Hancock and the art studio, the way the vehicles are parked on that highway and you're pulling out into a state right-of-way, you cannot see. So you're taking your life in your own hands when you pull out there. So it really just needs to be a one-way southbound. But you would have access from both sides, and so that is something that we've looked at, we've talked about, we went over there, we have visited. It has a power lift in there, so you could wall that off, and everyone who had storage upstairs would still have access to the lift. So that's what we've looked at, and that's what we've discussed, and that's as far as it has gone. So maybe we need to look more at that and talk about it more in the event we get this grant. But Saturday, I did open the municipal building. I know Mr. Owens has opened it several times. The county could not open the courthouse because they would have to have paid a deputy maybe triple time because it was a holiday weekend. So I opened it. We had 79 adults come through. That does not include, I did not count the children. 79 people from the hours of 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock used the bathroom here. Now, I don't know how many used bathrooms at the restaurants or at the stores, but that's how many we have. So this is a need for our city. And if we're going to grow and we're going to promote our tourism, we've got to have public restrooms.
I'd happen to agree. If we were to use that building, I agree with Mr. Bryant about, we need to do our best due diligence to keep it as clean as possible. I think that if we do this, a higher accountability for our city employees to be able to maintain that and keep that clean. And if somebody was to, like you say, put cameras up, make it liable to keep from vandalism happening, and being so close to the police department, I don't think that would hopefully not be an issue, but you never know. But I would have to agree with Mr. Bryan about if we're going to do it, it needs to be cleaned all the time, and even at night if we have to, is just to lock the door.
I think this would be a public restroom that would be locked.
Excuse me.
At night at 5 o'clock, it should be locked unless we're having a nighttime festival or a nighttime event, and then it could be open. I don't see any need because the stores around the square, the offices close pretty much at 5 other than the restaurants, and they have bathrooms. So, but even with our parks and recs, I mean, because I've gone around to every park several times, all the bathrooms need to be clean because parents are taking their kids in these bathrooms. Kids are going in there and they're nasty sometimes. So not just this restroom, but all of them need to be clean.
That's just the life of a public restroom here.
Exactly.
I've been in the malls, and I know that they have people there all day long. If you go in the morning, they're clean. By the time you leave in the evening, they're filthy.
Yes.
So that's public restroom.
Yes.
So they cleaned every day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying about on the square, but like if we had a building off the square block or off the square block available, I guess kind of what concerns me back here, it's kind of like a back alley.
The safety would be for me back there. I know at the safety,
Kind of like a
because there's
back
a lot
alley
of
restroom and handicap accessibility, all
There's
that.
not a lot of foot traffic
But that's
back
just
there.
my thoughts. I'm just trying to get some conversation going and.
behind. There's not a lot of foot traffic back there like Bell Boca has foot traffic around.
As far as being used for what the chief needs, whatever, I don't know why it can't be used for that now. I mean, if the plan would be for the chief using part of that building for something, well, he can use part of that building for something now. That doesn't change it. There's nothing to keep him doing that right now.
Well, we would have to renovate
Remodel.
for that and safety and security in there.
Okay.
So while we're remodeling, why not take care of all of these items? Chief, do you see a problem with safety in that alley, just from what we're talking about?
I think if we improve the lighting, I think we're gonna have to do some work on the sidewalks. I don't think there's gonna be a problem with it at all. That's during the events, we'll schedule routine patrols. That's just part of it. You go in and check these places. So I don't think it's gonna be any problem, any more problem than anywhere else.
Let me say this, I think we got a lot of good discussions. I don't think we're ready to decide where the restroom goes. We talked, I guess the subject is up down because there was some funding available, but there's a lot of studies need to be seen. I mean, before we say where's the safest place, how do we, I mean, even some cost in doing some lighting, some ADA. So I think we need to take 2 to 3 months just to make sure we put it in the best place. this funding is available and it could be used for a couple options. I mean, in my understanding, even if we had to put it on the side for a little while, but I do think this subject is so broad that we do need to talk about it a little further than today.
That's correct.
And I will share with you all, I will make a point today to send with the National Public Restroom Association, because they give some good guidelines. I mean, it has helped me over the last 6 months to know what we kind of should be looking for. So I'll send that out for your review.
Okay, thank you. Eddie, you might want to take a seat, I'm sorry. The next item is downtown sidewalks, and you might be there a little bit, so I'm sorry to have called you up.
I've done said all I got to say. I'm done.
Okay, Danny's done.
I'm done.
Item number 3 is the downtown sidewalk project, the bid and discussion and selection. So I will open the floor if anyone has comments.
I think it needs to be 1 or 2 just to get as much as we can done. It came from finance to take whatever we need over and above the bond issue to come out of general fund was a suggestion there, but I'm like Danny, think we need to get this done now, quit waiting around, and get it fixed.
Well, I think it's got to be general funds. Bond issue is pretty well tied up.
Right.
I'm ready to move number 1 forward.
Anybody else? Item number 1, or option number 1 is Main Avenue. This is going to be south, down in front of the Norman's Furniture area, just for identification. Main Avenue North, that is going to be the west side of the square. Probably have the most merchants are probably on the west side. That is Main Avenue North. And then Market Street is the south side of the square. And that one, I believe the report reflected that is the heaviest traveled side of the square, and it's in terrible shape.
Because we're not in a, like he said, we're just assuming we're going to get this other grant. So.
My question is, for clarification, will we have to go into the rainy day fund anyway with either one of them?
$300,000 to $400,000 on either one of them.
We approved it one time, 1.2, am I correct or no?
That was put forth.
That was
We
put
had
forward.
bonds.
Okay.
Bond issue,
So-
but this is another $300,000 to $400,000 plus outside of what we already have.
Yeah.
Forget about that 15% because
Probably, about 400,000 over yonder, about 3 over here, but a little over on both of them, but yeah. Either one of them, yeah.
Any other comments?
I don't have more comments.
I like option 2.
I had to go with option 1.
Well, I've already stated me, I'm an option 2, that's where I'm at.
Mr. Owens, you want us to get it down to 1 option and then vote on it Tuesday night? Or?
Yeah, that's what we do, just one option. Yeah, I don't think they need to move in 2 on.
Yeah.
Let's just move this thing on, whichever one it is. That's my thoughts.
Okay, so we've got Jeff is with a 1, Tanya's with a 1.
2.
You were 2?
Yeah.
1, and then 2. And Roger, you were 1. Jacob, you
That's
were 1. Dorothy?
I'm undecided. I have questions about money.
I said 1 or 2, I didn't pick. but
Okay.
I
it's,
have a lot of questions about money. Mr. Owens.
My question goes back to the grant that we had put in when this was being discussed earlier, that one side was not included in what we've already turned in, so we would have to
You saying the multimodal?
Right.
Grant?
that worries me about changing it.
Correct.
Because if we don't have that in there and then try to go back and negotiate it later, are they going to let us negotiate that? So
We can find out. I know College Streets is part of it, so I know we wouldn't have to worry about that, but I can find that out today.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think once we start playing around with that, it's going to just prolong that again, and we're not going to get it at all. I don't know why it was not put in there, but
I know, I kind of wish it was put in there from
Yeah.
the start too, just to,
Well, we did not have the bid at that time.
My biggest concern is the safety issues on that southwest side and out here, which we're not going to do anyway. and fixing those sides that way and coming back, doing the others later. The aesthetics of it all, is the equipment, supplies, et cetera, going to be available for it to look like it's supposed to? Are we piecemealing? We're going to have one side look like Italy and the other side look like Mayberry RFD?
Well, we already have the drawings, we already have the engineer work on it,
Yeah, I
so
know
it
that.
should
The
be.
plans are there. I'm talking about availability of what you
funds.
need to,
You were saying get the money wise for
Yes.
it? Yeah. That is a concern.
it is a big concern.
It is. As Vice Mayor mentioned, we could come out, depending on what the cost and options, so we could come out where we have one side or not done.
Well, this side being the newest side, I think that would probably blend in better with any new construction that's gonna leave, North Street being more dated,
Right.
I guess would be the word, more dated. So you would have around Norman's, the west side of the square, the south side of the square would be all brand new. The city side, the municipal side is the newest of the sidewalks. So it would kind of blend, especially with the new building, but then the north side.
How did our grant folks feel about TAP grants on this side? Did they give us any, with us doing other things already, do they think that'll give us an advantage of trying to get something this time?
So with the TAPS grant, that came about, Jamie had experiences with TAP grants. And in Birmingham, I guess 80% of ours were done in TAP grants. Just to try to see, there's still some work to see. And I know that Houston mentioned as well with his research, TAP grants are used, but I still gotta dig down in there. They are an option. Throughout my years, we did more TAP grants than not, with sidewalks. And I don't recall we ever considering that here, and that was a big thing that Jamie wanted us to do, is start using it. Because I think in her previous lives, they used a lot of TAP grant funds too for sidewalks.
I'm still, Mr. Houston said that these numbers, especially on project number 2 here, that's just estimated. That it still could be 1.4 million if we was to go with this, and if they bring back the numbers. Is that right?
That's certainly a possibility. I think the chances of that are extremely low.
Oh, okay.
Their block by block negotiated prices were, for each block, were slightly lower than their original bid prices.
Okay.
So in those blocks where I supplemented the original bid price, that's why it says estimated here.
Okay.
In their negotiated price, it was lower when they went back and recalculated their numbers based on a negotiated standpoint. So I think this would be close to a maximum. I don't think another block would be higher, but that would certainly be up to them.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but we do know for a fact that project 1, that is what we will be paying if we go with option 1.
Yes, sir. And they submitted that formally. That would be the contract price.
Okay.
Okay, we want to go back through now that we've had the discussion, and Jeff, which option would you like to see move forward to Tuesday night?
I'm gonna go 1.
Alderman Allen?
2.
No,
Is all of this
two.
pending receiving the grant?
We can't, the 60 days is gonna be.
No, this is hoping we get a grant, and this
It's
is
still
what we're
yeah.
looking at.
We won't know that for a few
We'll have
months.
a prayer meeting so we can get that grant.
Alderman Martinez?
I'm still 1.
Alderman Painter?
I'm 1.
And Alderman Small?
I'm undecided.
Okay, so 1 has it. We will move option 1, that's Main Avenue South, Main Avenue North, and that's in front of Norman's, the west side of the square, and Market Street is the south side. So we'll move this to Tuesday night, and we'll vote on it at that time.
Okay. And if so, the process moving forward, If action is taken on that and if that contract is passed, then we'll formalize the construction contract for your signature and the contractor's signature and begin that process immediately after that.
And I think the public will be excited. I know that Alderman Bryant's brought this up before. We promised, and Alderman Alder, we promised the people we promised, so we've got to get on it. I think it's going to be exciting.
We cut trees down.
Yeah, we
cut it
cut
all
trees
down.
down in anticipation, so.
And then, looking forward, certainly your approval begins the process. If it's approved, you'd be authorizing entering into a construction contract. We'll manage the construction contract between the contractor, get it to you for signature and review by the city attorney. And then once the contract is signed, we'll schedule a pre-construction conference, and at that conference, we'll get an estimate from the contractor when their notice to proceed will be. So we'll start into all those construction contract components after the execution of a contract.
Okay. And Kevin, maybe for Tuesday night, could we also have what's available in the bond issue for sidewalks?
We will.
So we would know exactly
We will.
kind of where funding would be coming from.
Absolutely.
And whatever has to come from the rain, this is general?
General.
What will come from the general fund? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Future. Appreciate it.
Now, Director Blunkett, we'll go to item number 4. That is increase the sanitation rates for the the Fayetteville Housing Authority.
Last year, we discussed raising these rates, and we was asked to hold off till this year so that the Housing Authority could plan for it in their budget. Mr. Owens has talked with the Director of the Housing Authority. Ms. Dorothy and myself have talked to previous board members. Nobody can tell us why they is at a cheaper rate than anybody else. So we just want to raise them up to what residential rates are around town. And you have a copy of there, how much money it means to us a year. And this comes out of the Housing Authority. The tenant does not pay this.
And that's what we've been losing?
Yes, sir.
Did you find out any information about the garbage trucks? I know that came up in Public Works. Do they have to be purchased out of this?
I've talked with MTask, and MTask, they got 3 up there that says it's a private fund, 3 says it's not, so they've sent it their attorneys for them to figure out. So, quick as we get an answer, I'll email you all and let you know.
Okay, any other questions or discussions? This would take they would just be set at current rates, which is $19 per month. If you have 2 carts, it will go to $15 a month.
Yes, ma'am.
This will be revenue of $9,300 a year that we would generate by this, and it's just going to what the regular rate is anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Housing Authority will cover this cost, not the resident.
Yes, ma'am. And their budget starts in October, so they've been aware of it for several months, and they can plan for it.
Any questions on that? Everybody's okay with moving this forward to Tuesday night? Okay.
That's all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
Y'all anybody ever put in? Have y'all got any more help?
We've still got 2 openings.
Gotcha. Which I did fill 1 though.
Well, we filled 2.
Filled 2, gotcha.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next is Chief Pendergraft with the Police Department.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I have several event permits for your consideration. The first will be our Christmas parade. It's scheduled for December 2nd, and as you're aware, this will require all hands on deck from the police department. The second is the Fear Not Fest for Halloween night, but this is a First Baptist Church event. It's just an alternative from going to house for the children. This will not require any overtime. The third, excuse me, The Lincoln County High School Homecoming Parade, it's scheduled for September 29th. We've had to alter the route a little bit due to a trial that's going to be held at the court, scheduled to be held at the courthouse that week. We didn't want the parade going by during the trial, so it's going to end at the fairgrounds now instead of the courthouse. October 29th, we have Trunk in Treat. This is from the Washington Street Church of Christ on October 29th. Again, this will require no police overtime. The Welcome to Fayetteville Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, September 1st through the 30th. This is the group that puts the teal ribbons around the square. Finally, our senior fishing rodeo, scheduled for October 7th. We will have on-duty officers cover that, but we may have to bring a man or two in, depending on the numbers that generate. And I have approved these for your consideration. We also have 2 roadblock requests, first by the American Legion Riders. This will be on September 16th, and this is to raise funds for their Wreaths Across America program. And the Lincoln County High School Band Boosters are requesting November 11th to raise funds for the band. And again, I submit those for your approval.
Any questions on these events, roadblocks or parades?
On the roadblocks, and I'm certainly not against these, I don't mean that at all. We had several years ago when we went through our ordinances, you wouldn't have been here. Is there a limit on roadblocks that we have now per year? Or is there any kind of limit on roadblocks? Did we do something on that?
They were scaled down.
Yeah, there was. I mean, where are we at on that? Are we still within that number that we're allowing?
I think so. We haven't had that. We haven't had it.
Seen any at all.
Okay.
Since the year they were cut down, there hasn't been an abundance and all of that
Yeah.
overwhelming somebody there every month.
Yeah, but that, just so you'll be aware, we did take some action, I believe, on the number of roadblocks we allow a year or something, but you might want to go back and
I'll see if
take
I
a
can
look at
find
it.
that.
I'm okay with these, but I just, so you know.
I appreciate you letting me know.
Yeah, it's in the code somewhere. Well, John's got the code there, but I don't know where it's at.
I don't remember myself if we went and did a number of them.
We did.
We did.
What I remember, we did.
We did something. We took some
Do
kind
we
of
know
action.
about what year, around what year?
Oh, man, I tell you, I don't remember. I've been here so long, I don't even know.
1976.
Not that long, but 10 years ago, maybe.
No, it was further than 2 years.
Is it?
It's been before.
But anyway, there is something we did on roadblocks to where you might want to be aware of in case it.
I'll be glad
I
to
don't
research
see a problem
that.
with these right here.
I think we're 5, 6 maybe for the year so far.
I think what had happened was it got way out of hand, and it was interfering with traffic big time. Down there at that main intersection, we was having a lot of safety issues, and I think we had to cut back on them. That's all I got.
All right, number 9.
The Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy has received a grant by Governor Lee. Well, it's actually 2 grants. The first will allow the academy to sponsor the number of officers going through their academy. They will pay for the cost of the academy, they'll pay for the uniforms that they have to wear in the academy, and they'll pay for their physical training gear. And we're in line to take advantage of that program. I think it'll just be a simple contract between the mayor and the academy. The second part of this grant is a hiring and retention grant. What this does is it allows bonuses to be paid to new hired officers to stay with the department that hires them. For a new hired officer who's green and hasn't had certification before, if they stay 1 year, they get a $3,000 bonus. If they stay 2 years, they get a $2,500 bonus. If they stay 3 years, they get another $2,500 bonus. An experienced officer, and this has to be an officer that has been out of law enforcement for at least a year and no more than 7 years. We can bring them back to the career field, and after 6 months, they'll receive a $1,000 bonus. After 12 months, they'll receive $3,000, 24 months, $3,000, 36 months, $3,000. So we can get an experienced officer back. If he stays 3 years, he gets $10,000 in bonuses. New hires will get $8,000 in bonuses if they stay 3 years. Great program that we will be able to take advantage of. This does go back until May 1st, so any hires we've had since May 1st, which we have 2 right now that will be eligible for this. We had 3. One we hired Monday, or we hired Tuesday, resigned this morning. His old company offered him money to come back, so he went back. So we're two slots short. I anticipate another officer leaving. He's made the first steps going to the Trooper Academy. And I expect him to go, so that'll be another one that will be able to take advantage of these funds. Manpower right now, guys, we're hurting. I got 2 guys on light duty. They're going to be on light duty for at least 6 more weeks, 1 possibly even longer than that. Then we're going to have 3 or 4 that are waiting to go to the police academy. And if we can get them into the next, all of them into the next academy, we'll be lucky. Some of them may have to wait till the next one. But anyway, great program issued by the governor that we should be able to take advantage of. Are there any questions?
On the academy, where it references the academy,
So it's not reimbursable. We would not be charged. The fee would just be covered.
Correct.
With an agreement.
Correct. That's my understanding of it now. I haven't seen the contract, but that's my understanding of it.
You think they're putting this out there because it's hard to compete with the state right now, what they're paying?
Sure.
That's exactly what it's for.
Y'all know as well as I do, the departments that pay the most money get the most people. And you can't blame these kids for going for $6,000, $7,000 more a year. You just can't blame them. But it hurts the departments here. What this does is it gives us an opportunity to bring back officers that have gotten out of the field. We can bring them back, pay them a bonus if they'll just come back and stay with us.
If somebody wants to stay local.
Any other questions?
How long is the police academy?
16 or 17 weeks now.
I got you. All right.
And I believe you're still using Maryville.
Might be a cop or somewhere.
Blunt County, still setting up Blunt County.
Nashville's where this will come out of, Toledo.
Oh, this comes out of Nashville? So our officers will be going to Nashville Academy versus Blunt County Academy?
It depends where the slots are. If we can get them in Blunt County and get them all in, half in Blunt and half in Nashville, we'll do that. But
still,
well, we had to start sending them over to Blunt County for a reason, probably. Nashville's a lot closer, but then we start sending them all the way to East Tennessee, so.
It's getting the slots.
It just depends on where you get slot.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And they determine where we get slots.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up is the Fire Department, Chief Kimbrough.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First off, the fire department would like to start doing a CPR and AED class that we're going to start teaching anybody that needs it in the community, kind of give back that way. We're going to offer it to all the industries. I know there's some CNA, stuff like that need CPR licenses every now and then. So we're always getting phone calls about things like that, and so we're going to try to start that. And that goes into the grant for applying for a Walmart grant. We would like permission to apply for a Walmart grant. It's a 100% grant, and we're going to ask for the CPR mannequins and the training AED mannequins for infant and adult through that grant. So we're just asking permission to apply for that. And Next on the agenda here is, I'd like to present 5 employees for an outstanding job on a fire we had. On 7/28/23, the Fayetteville Fire Department was dispatched to our residence on Clark Avenue for a structure fire with possible entrapment. Upon their arrival of firefighting units, the fire department was able to hear a man inside the residence. After forcing entry through the rear door, they discovered a male patient slumped over a chair in the kitchen. The patient was picked up by the fire crews and taken to Lincoln EMS unit for transport and treatment. And I would like to commend this crew for the fast action of saving this gentleman's life. So I have an award for them. Also, and just an FYI update, I know y'all heard a lot of numbers. The truck update is, the guy called me the other day, he said there's 11 motors left as of the end of August. When those 11 are gone, we would expect a price increase of up to probably $100,000 at least for the next year motors. So that's just an update on that. And then also, starting September 12th, we will be starting our fire hydrants, so doing our flows and flushes for the fire hydrants. So you'll see us out doing that. And other than that, that's my report. Unless y'all have any questions for me.
Any questions? Chief Kimbrough? Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Recs Department, Officer Templeton, Commander.
The first part of this, I want to give the floor to Mr. Owens for the Governor's Direct Appropriation Grant Resolution. He's got more information on this than I.
Good morning, and once again, the Finance Committee heard on Friday from Randy Delap about additional $500,000 that was appropriated out of the Governor's office. So what we're asking today, we need to have a resolution to be able to accept this in our account. As you may remember in the past, that the city was I guess they were the managers of the money, even though it was Camp Blunt money. So we are asking for a resolution with this item to be able to receive the $500,000 that will be awarded to Camp Blunt.
Okay, this will move on to Tuesday night for a vote. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
All right, for my director's report, Don Davidson Ball Field, the softball season has closed. Our guys are currently in maintenance phase. They're going to, I'm counting on Mr. Plunkett's crew to help with the drainage issue down there. It's probably going to be fall, from what he told me, before they can get down there to start putting the pipes in. Once that's complete, then we're going to start the paving process down there next to the concession stands and all of that, if we can get it in time before they close for the cold of the winter. The pool has closed. It closed a little early because they didn't have enough lifeguards to support it. It closed short of the Labor Day weekend. But with this closure, it's allowing our guys to get in and do some much needed maintenance. They're going to start painting before it gets too late into the fall. Stonebridge Park, they have completed a pump house enclosure, and they have painted the rails. They have painted with the swing arm down there, and Brad Smith is working on getting the wood for the facade of the restroom to replace the damaged wood down there. The soccer fields, it is currently up and going. Cheer Magic and the Fayetteville High School are currently taking care of the lawn issues. We are striping, and we have got right after I came in, we got those goalposts set up with a net for the backdrop. Moving on to the gun range, I don't know if y'all have been down there. We had FPU come in and help us install some poles. We're going to redo the pavilions down there, the shooting pavilions. Mr. Plunkett's crew has come down and helped us put some poles in on the long range shooting as backstops. We filled that in with dirt, eliminating that safety issue of the bedrock that was exposed on the upper end. We're going to start moving some dirt around to make berms, make it a little safer area, and that's what we've got going on down there. We're hoping to get this completed before I'm out, but that's where we stand on that. One of the last sessions, y'all approved the Blue Cross Blue Shield safety grant for us to move forward with that. I have completed that grant. It has been submitted. It's just a waiting game now to see when that money comes in. And lastly, there's a fence that was part of the state that surrounds Kids Park and down there at S.J. King. We're looking to remove that for aesthetic purposes. We have permission from the state. Once we get our tractor and stuff in, we're gonna go down there and start removing it. So that's just a matter of time right now in maintenance. So, any questions?
On that
The,
soccer, go ahead.
That's the soccer field. The parking lot at the soccer field, is it accessible now?
It is, and I've ordered signs. They are in, and they're supposed to be put up that says I've got 2 of the overflow parking, 1 for each side of the entrance. And then the question came up about pedestrian. I know that there's a narrow opening, and you can see somebody actually trying to drive through there. So we've got pedestrian traffic only for that other little cutout. So that has been addressed.
Mine was about the electricity for the scoreboard. Have y'all talked to FPU at all to see if they can help out?
I have not yet, but we will make that happen.
Because I don't think it's not going to be that much work involved.
Okay, what about the lighting issue? I heard like a bank, maybe something been run over with by a mower or something that had knocked out a bank of lights. How are we there?
When FPU came out to help us dig the holes for those poles, they found that issue. They got it up and going, and Brad Smith, our maintenance guy, was contacting an electrician to get that actually taken care of. But FPU saw it, realized what happened. They got it back in, at least in operation for the time being, till we can get somebody to come out there and fix it properly.
Commander, I just want to commend you for the job that you've done. You've done really well. You stepped into something that it has a lot of controversy sometimes, and I think you've done a wonderful job so far. And for the job that you was asked to do. So thank you very much for everything.
He's getting used to it now.
Thank you
Heard
very much.
wonderful things about the gun range. You mentioned that, and the comments were it's like a different area of the park. It's just totally different and very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, there's a smaller pistol range that's to the right if you're facing up range. We're looking to kind of expand the one on the left for pistols. And I've spoken with John Wayne Counts, and John Wayne, he's one of our officers. He's a firearms instructor. He's on the skeet. He taught skeet at the high school. He trap and all of that. And we're looking to take that one on the right and see about putting in a skeet. I found you can get about a $300 skeet thrower. See if we can have that permanently mounted, and that way we can cover shotgun, pistol, and rifle all on that same range. John Wayne's done some measurements. He thinks that it's going to be very viable, and I think that would be a benefit for all seasons or all.
I don't bring a lot of people up there too to shoot skeet. I love bird hunting myself, so shooting skeet is a good practice. So
and of course we're coming up in October, November. Deer season's coming up,
yes.
So and we've already seen an influx of people coming up to shoot. So. We've got some big plans, and I'm hoping to get those accomplished before I have to relinquish the reins. So,
And Mayor Boyd, I'm gonna say this: Kobe has done a wonderful job at that gun range with very little money. I had $100, and he used very little money, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Thus far, it's just been manpower, as far as I'm aware. So we haven't had, the telephone poles that we had gotten from Don Davidson is what we're using up there. As the backstops and the posts and all of that for the pavilion. So we're about to have to come off some money, and Jack is actually going to get me the price quotes for what it's going to take for the roof. But I think it's going to be very reasonable, and I think I know we were allocated $10,000. I think thus far we're going to be well below that. So
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much.
thank you very much. Sir.
Next up is Planning and Codes Director Gentry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll do a full department update on Tuesday, but I wanted to take the opportunity this morning to promote an upcoming event that we have, the Keep Fayetteville City Beautiful program that we formed this year. Tony and Tanya Knott are chairing our committee, and it's Mr. Owens and the Planning Department. But we're going to host an informational meeting September the 12th at 6 p.m. at the Rec Center. We're kind of utilizing most all of our city departments. The fire department is going to come and talk about fire safety, how to properly use heaters and extension cords through the fall, winter months. The police department's going to have a representative to speak about their community watch programs. We were going to have a member of FPU also come. They had a scheduling conflict, but on their behalf, we're going to inform residents about 811 and call before you dig, because we're having a lot of demolitions around town. And then also how to, who to properly contact if they have a security light out or street light out. Just some good information to carry us through the fall and winter months, because it starts to get dark earlier, and just making sure that we're making sure all residents know for safety reasons. Ms. Jill has also talked to our state affiliate for Keep Tennessee Beautiful. She was very impressed with our efforts throughout the summer months since we formed this committee, and she is providing us information on how to become proper affiliated through the state, and also there's some grants available for beautification that we're hoping to take advantage of. And then over the next couple of months, we're also going to go ahead and set up a calendar for 2024 with some tentative dates and some community cleanup efforts, continuing with them, and then also what other types of projects that we might can offer to the community. So we wanted to do this resident meeting. We did have some food donated. We're going to provide chili dogs and chips. So we're hoping that the residents will come out next Tuesday evening. We do realize that it's also board meeting night, but the Knots and then our team is going to go and get everything set up and going if our board meeting runs a little long, and then the rest of us will meet out there. We do have it on social media, on the city page. We put up flyers, and then it'll be available on our city website. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is work is beginning at the old Taco Bell location at 1200 Huntsville Highway. That's going to be a T-Mobile, and it's basically going to be a new building when they get finished with that. So I know we get those types of questions when work begins, so I just wanted to let everybody know what was going on there. That's perfect.
Any questions?
How's the banner project?
I spent a good bit of my day yesterday working on that, and we're trying to get some high resolution images so that they can put a proof together. But I'm hoping to have some examples through the October meeting cycle to provide.
Cool.
If anybody has any other options or things they want me to look into, please let me know. I did take what feedback I was given to try to at least get something to provide.
We're going to try to narrow them down before you.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to give 2 to 3 options to provide to give y'all an opportunity to vote on.
Great.
But that was the roadblock that I hit yesterday. So I'm working with the graphic artist to try to get that handled.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
IT Department, Mr. Sibley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First item, we're going to get some new microphones for auditorium here. Everyone's been saying we need to do something with the speakers or the amp, and I came to the conclusion I think it's more of an input problem than an output problem. Maybe Mr. Painter can attest to this, but the way you use a mic can make a huge difference. So we got them in. They're sitting in my office right now. There's already holes in the desk. Some of them just need to be bored out to stick the XLR connection through it, but I think by BMA next week we'll have that installed. So happy to report that, and hopefully the public will be satisfied with that too.
So we're going to do with up top like these instead of the...
They're going to be these.
Okay.
We're going to have that at all the seats.
Okay.
Second, the police department is utilizing their new body cams, and part of that was they wanted to see the way it works right now. They drop their body cam into a dock. It gets sent up into a cloud repository that they can access from a computer. Police department wanted those videos to also be stored locally on premise. So I've configured a network attached storage system similar to what I do with PC backups here at the municipal building. And I configured one out. They wanted more space, so I went back and I've asked for a more updated quote. So I'm just in the process of getting them satisfied with what they want, and then we'll move on to the next step there. Been a lot of changes on the website, board appointments, new committee times, new employee information. We've just made some changes to reflect those changes on the website. I've mentioned in the past, we've had some issues with Spectrum. We've successfully hashed all that out. When the initial installers came here to install cable boxes, none of the serial numbers were actually associated to our account, and we've sorted out that issue. And actually about 3 weeks ago, we made a call and they were able to go out to the rec department and fix an issue that each time we would call, they would just be like, well, we don't see that device on your account, or they'd send someone out expecting to replace one thing when we have a totally different appliance put in. So, but everything's sorted out and everything's working good there. Other items, I'm doing tests with Windows 11. I've come across an issue that's stemming from new computers that I buy. I was in the habit of, let's say I bought some computers from Dell, and what I would try to do is I would try to have Dell associate a Windows Office license for your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, email, Outlook. When you bundle with the machine, you just pay a one-time price versus how Microsoft has changed their pricing structure to where you license every user a license and you pay a monthly fee for that. No one liked the idea of that because it's more money, but we're running into issues with these, it's called OEM, Original Equipment Manufacturer License, where they associate it with a machine. They run fine until, let's say I have to restore a machine or put a previous backup on there. When the operating system would detect a change to the machine, or when the machine would detect a change in the operating system, actually, Office software would just deactivate. And we run into it all the time. We call Dell. They don't want to touch it. They want us to call Microsoft. And so, long story short, I have some new PCs I'm going to be buying soon, and I'm rethinking how I want to approach that because of the licensing issue with Windows software, with the Office software. So I may have to bring some new numbers for that PC purchase because I want to get 365 licenses, kind of similar to what I've done for the municipal building here. Other than that, we're also in the middle of a financial system conversion, moving from eGov to local government. Jamie Owen was kind of spearheading that whole process, and we're still in talks with her. We have a tentative date of October 1st to attempt that conversion. And also, Rec Center they have a software called RecDesk. This is what they're utilizing for rental of amenities at the parks, pavilions. Also, it's going to be utilized for their ball league registration, stuff like that, asset tracking. Most of it is set up. Carla has gotten most of it done. Just one piece of it is just implementing a payment processor as a middleman to handle the payments that would be done for reservations to, like I said, the park amenities or the gun range or things like that. But yeah, that's in the works as well. And that's my report.
Any questions for the IT department?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say, Zach, you've done an amazing job. And, whatever you do in the future, man, I think you're going to knock it out of the park. So thanks for everything that you've done with all this, especially the mics, man.
Thank you, Sam. Moving on to the finance department.
Good morning, everyone. If I can, I'm going to start with my report, with the director's report. And one of the reasons I wanted to do, because I wanted to introduce our new finance director who is here with us today. We do have Loretta Gardner, who is out in the audience this morning. So from now on, she will be doing these important reports. But in addition to Ms. Gardner, I do want to welcome, we have Rachel Owens, who has joined our staff. You may see Rachel outside, but she joined our staff 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's out there and she's running and learning a lot of stuff. So we're pretty fully staffed, and everybody's eager to go. So I just wanted to introduce our two new team members. in the finance department. As far as the local option sales tax, for July 2023, we received $327.22. Last year at this time, in July 22, we had recorded $312,326.81. So we're a little bit above where we were with that, the local sales tax, than where we were last year this time. As far as the occupancy tax, we collected $17,833.67 in the month of July. At this time last year, we were at $19,866.85. So in that category, we are a little down, but that is our numbers for the month of July. Once again, we were able to close out our fiscal year. We were able to close it out late last week, so we sweated, but we did get everything in, and we are very grateful to have that process behind us. And as Zach mentioned, we have been talking probably now weekly in our software conversion. We will be going from eGov to local gov, and we are expecting live date to be October 1st, which is also the start of collecting property taxes. So we need a lot of prayers for that week, but we feel like we will be prepared to keep things going on that time. As far as agenda items, we do have the Fayetteville City Schools fiscal year budget amendment 1 passed through that the school board is asking for your support on that one. So that would be item number 1. And I entertain any questions on that one. If none, we also asking for a request, and this is an interim authorization. What happens is that we have a payroll process that has to go through the banks. At this present time, we only have one person who's able to do that, and that's Pam Gentry. We asking that Michelle Mitchell serve as backup. This will be addressed once Ms. Gardner and I sort of have everything situated, so we will be addressing this again in maybe a couple more meetings, but right now we need a backup person, and we're asking that the board allow Michelle Mitchell to be that backup person for payroll.
Good with that.
We don't have to take that to a vote, do we?
No, but it will be a part of, we do need a resolution for Tuesday. And unless there's any other questions for finance, they will do it for finance.
Okay, moving on then, Mr. Owens to administration.
Good morning again.
Good morning, Mr. Owens. I knew he was going to do it.
Long time no hear from, huh? Well, I'm going to give, I think my main point for today is what is going on with Animal Control Transition Report. And I want to report, we have had a lot of activities since the last 30 days or so, I guess. But starting out, and I know that we have leadership, Humane Society leadership. We have Cindy Kite and Leanne both joining us today. And we have been talking, and they've been very gracious in the transition process. But as of August 1st, they have submitted the 60-day notice that they do not wish to continue, the Humane Society do not wish to continue with animal control. And we have had a chance to talk, and we've been in conversation since, and we're working through a transition plan. Since that time, we have received a bid opening as of August 17th, and we didn't have any bidders to do animal control, so we're looking at the next steps to do. So we've been meeting, leadership has had a couple meetings, we have had site meetings. Right now, this is how we are looking at doing animal control, and we're meeting with the Humane Society very regular for advisement, but we're in transition of that building, and we have had discussions with, I have at least met with Cindy and Leanne about what do we do in the transition process, so they will start moving, and we probably will be moving out through early mid-October of that building. The suggestion right now is to allow the building to be cleaned, sanitized, repaired. We got a lot of building needs in that building that has been cited. So we're looking at possibly going anywhere 6 weeks to 2 months without any real services of animal control. If that is the case, we're gonna have to do a lot of public notice, but that just to get the building ready to be operational and give the Humane Society enough time to pick up cages and any items that they do not want to use. So we're looking at probably even October and November without services, real services. However, we are also talking with the police department and the sheriff's department in case we do have any real emergencies, what to do. We had a good meeting yesterday between the sheriff's department and the police department about how they would react if we do have some emergencies. We're trying to tighten that up a little bit, but they are really ready to do what they need to do if in the interim period if we do have services. In addition to talking to the police and the sheriff's department, we've also been engaged with several vendors, including Giles County, if we had to house emergencies, and they would be real emergency dogs there. We've been talking with the city of Huntsville, who's willing to help us out. We've been talking with Alabama, the Animal Control and Care of Tennessee. They're willing to come down and help us out. So we do have some help. We do have a vendor, which we do not have a price, a vendor who operated animal control out of Hoover, Alabama, willing to come up for 90 days to get us situated. We have not got the price of that, but we do have a willingness right now if he wants to come and serve. And as I said, he has operated in the state of Alabama for a number of years. Cindy reminds me that there's certain licenses that we do need in the state of Tennessee. I have also talked with them, the Humane Society, if we can retain a couple of their employees. So we're interested in retaining a couple of their employees, if possible, who do have certain expertise. And we're going to do a little further negotiation with them, but that's going to be based on the board and the county's decisions about that. So in essence, that's where we are, but I'm also willing to address any questions that you may have.
Kevin, I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Where's the funds going to come from to redo this building and buy the cages and stuff that they currently have and they're going to be moving out?
We're going to have to now, in all honesty, I don't want to speak for us right now because we do have to find money. But the county has been a little more active about that. And just to be candid, they really want a whole new building, but they've been active. They do have some ARPA money. We would have to find some money if we were to, and first of all, we're doing an assessment of the buildings. Jack has done some things that we know preliminary what we do need. We do need some plumbing. We do need some roof, well, not roofing, but drainage coming from the roofing. We have to do some stuff with ADA. Jack has been out there many times, even before we got to this point. So we do know we got to do some work in order just to get it operational. I mean, without a doubt. That cost has not been analyzed yet, but we will have to come back. We do have a little savings, but it's not going to be nearly enough for the electrical system.
It's going to cost a whole lot more.
It's going to cost a whole lot more.
And I guess you said about Giles County, Huntsville, well, then we're going to have to pay for that transportation. Have we got a vehicle ready for this transportation?
Well, we talked about that yesterday. As far as the immediate, we talked about the sheriff department can come up with something, and the police department has a recommendation. And as I said, this would be mostly for emergency services. It won't be as detailed services as what the Humane Society did. We're going across the line doing the spay and neutering. But it's like if you have a dangerous dog out, these are vehicles that can be used to get the dogs up and into proper places.
Well, I think it's more than dangerous dogs. I'm talking about the people who just happen to drop off animals at the shelter, drop them off here, drop them off there. You're going to be relying on the city, police department, and the county to do this, and I just don't feel safe working right now. And you'd be shut down for 2 months. We're going to have an animal control problem.
Yeah, and we do have an animal control problem even now. I mean, even to the point, Huntsville is willing to help us because now a lot of stuff is coming from Lincoln County. And when I talked to Dr. Shepherd a couple months ago, she's saying it is really growing, so they're willing to get in and help us now to help resolve this. But, yeah, you're right, there's gonna be
I
some
mean, any given
operations
time,
like-
animals are just dropped off out the shelter, and or they get calls, go pick up kittens, or pick up a dog, and, or somebody's abandoned them at their house, and, I mean, they're going
And
to
what we're
these
gonna have to do,
cruisers
I mean,
up.
because there's gonna be some people who are gonna drop out animals. I understand, that's why, one of the reasons I do want to retain at least a couple staff members, because we will have some people, and then there's still gonna need to be some things done even in the interim period. It's not that operations is gonna stop, it's more regrouping and training and doing some other stuff that need to be done. One of the things, Ms. Kite sent me some training opportunities earlier this week or last week that I still think if we are able to retain, we need to get our employees in or anybody into these things. So it's not that they're going to be doing nothing. We're just going to limit operations.
Well, I mean, I'm glad we're going to keep some of the employees, but now we got to add them to our insurance.
That's our plan, to keep some of them. So it has not been decided, but that's our plan. Our hopes.
I would hope we can hurry up and get to a hold of them so they know out looking for other jobs, and these people are qualified that already been through training, and we don't have to go out and find new ones, and we can retain some of these that are working there and let them know before they start going out job hunting real fast before because I mean, it's a matter of time. They're going to need a position somewhere. Then we're going to have to get the new certification for these other people, and we're going to spend a whole lot of money if we don't do something to help them out now.
Well, I prefer to keep them too, but it's also going to be a joint decision between the county and the city, even the sheriff's department, what they're willing to do, and they're really willing to take on part of the operation. But by keeping some of the employees would be very advantageous for everybody. I was in the same situation 20 years ago today, what Jefferson County and Birmingham did, and we had 12 employees. We retained those employees, and that was one of the ways we were able to get everything better. As far as I know, most of those employees are still with Birmingham now, but I do recommend that that's going to be our best solution.
So now it's going to be a line item. So it's going to be part of the city now.
We're going to have to adjust, and one of the things, I have had a chance to, like I said, I spoke with Mrs. Kite and Leanne to even get permission to talk with them, and I talked with them, but no decisions have been made between the county and the city that we'll be retaining. The sheriff's department also recommended the same, but we still got official actions before we can do that.
But Mr. Owens, is animal control, we would not be going out picking up abandoned animals, right? In animal control that the city would be responsible for is
Animal
dangerous?
control is patrolling. Yes, you do pick up dangerous animals.
We'll pick up any animals, abandoned animals. That's what it's for, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Anything that's a nuisance, we do pick up. But you still have levels of nuisance. If you have an aggressive dog, if you have a dog that's, if you have abuse, many of their cases you have abused animals, you provide housing, temporary housing for them.
And then the funds that were set aside to go to this outside agency, the Humane Society, that would change, and a portion of that could be used for salaries.
If we chose to,
do that.
we could put salaries towards it. Yes.
So there will be some money there that is not going out that would be used.
It's still some money left, yes, ma'am.
But it won't be near enough to maintain that building, to maintain the kennels and the cages and stuff like this that they're going to be taking with them, or unless they decide to sell them to us or something. But there's a whole lot of money we got to spend.
We do have to put some money in the building, but we are even doing that. We don't know what that amount is right now, but we do know we have to do some money.
Any other questions?
And I'm also going to say too, even the building, if the decision is to keep the building, I don't want to give the notion that in 90 days, whatever we're going to do, that the building is going to be all right. I think the mayor, as well as John Hill, went through the building about a week and a half ago. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done to the building, so it's going to be a process, and it may even be a year or two process, even if we do keep the building. I think the county, when they came out of it, they were really ready to, at that point, look at doing someplace else. I mean, my conversation with Mayor Newman is he has very limited thoughts about long-term using that building. He wants another building, but, you know.
How much funds do they have left that they're looking at?
I'm assuming, he has not said this, but I think he's looking at all his ARPA money, and I think that's $250,000 somewhere in there. I think that's what he's looking at.
Anything else? Any more, Kevin, do you have any other reports?
As far as reports, I do want to thank everybody for complying with the Title VI. Pam led that effort, and that's a very important process. If we're going to get any grant money, all of the applications now are asking them to have we done Title VI requirements. So I do want to thank everybody for complying with that. And I also want to remind the public, just so they can understand that if they want to speak at the board meeting on next Tuesday, they need to sign up at our office by 2 p.m. on Tuesday. That's the cutoff day, the cutoff time. So if you want to speak, we need to have you signed in the front office by 2. And that's it.
Anything else? Okay, so we're going to move on to our last item on the agenda, and this is concerning board appointments. I have spoken with Attorney Hill and several other people regarding this, and it's based on actions at some recent board meetings about board appointments. I want to state that per the charter, it gives the mayor the duty to make appointments. Some of the boards require board's approval on the appointments, and some of them do not. So you just have to look at the different boards to see which it is required on. Also in the municipal code, it gives direction on how the mayor is to notify the board. And so the month before any appointment is made, the mayor needs to give the board, and which it's included in your package today, any expirations or any upcoming expirations. You give the board name and the member's name, and you provide this to the board so they are aware that we have expirations nearing us. And then within 15 days before the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, the name is provided to this board so they will know in advance who I would be bringing forth. And so that way everybody keeps knowledge and keeps in communication. And I was hoping maybe we could just kind of clear up some things as to how all this process goes. Which brings us to the first item on here is the Board of Public Utilities. There is a county position that has expired. It expired June the 30th. And there is a city position that expired June the 30th. The Federal Lincoln County Public Library, they have one position that expired June the 30th. And the Municipal Planning Commission, the library position is a city position, and the Planning Commission, the expiration date on that is August the 1st, and that is a person that has to be from the fringe area. They live in the county, but within a 5-mile radius of the city limits. So some of these boards dictate how many, where they have to live, and different requirements. So, you know, I take this very seriously. I look at the bylaws. I look at what's happened in the past. And, you know, I put a lot of time in this because these boards need these board members to help them and to help them grow and do a good job for our community. So I take this seriously. I put a lot of time into it. These are not political friends. They are not personal friends. So, you know, I spend time. I did provide a short bio. I mean, these boards do not require a long resume or anything like that, but I try to give the board information on these people, especially if they are not very well, you know, publicized. So the first one is the FPU board, and this board is set by our charter, And the purpose of this board is to protect the customers, to provide fair rates, and also to oversee the management and the financial and the daily operations of this electric co-op. Right now, the board, and by the statute, it has 7 members, and they are appointed by the mayor to be approved by the alderman. The mayor serves as ex officio and has no vote. Each board member is paid $275 a month. The term for each board member is 3 years. The alderman that is appointed to this board serves 2 years. The members of this board, there are 2 city residents and 4 members are county residents that must own property outside the city limits, and they have to be a customer of the electric co-op. And then, of course, the alderman. So right now, this is what we have on the board. We have 1 county member that has served 20 years. We've got 1 county member that has served 16 years. That's a little over 5 terms. A county member that has served 15 years. That's 5 terms. We've got a county member that has served 6 years. That's two terms. We've got a city member that has served 8 years. We've got a city member that has served 6 years. And so we have 20 years is a long time on the board. So each of these board members are required in the first year of their service to complete 16 online classes. That equals about 12 hours of training through the state comptroller's office. These classes cover subjects like customer service, public records, open meetings, water leaks, wastewater, fraud. It just covers a wide variety of subjects, but this is to be completed in their first year on the board. This is paid, it's no cost to the board, and it's no cost to FPU. This is provided by the state. There is also additional training and conferences along the way that each board member can attend, and FPU will pay the cost. It is not required. You go if you want to go. You go if you want to learn more. It is up to you. A board member can become a gold certified board member, and by doing that, FPU spends approximately, and Mr. Dye gave me this information, approximately $3,000 at their pace during their tenure. Again, this is outside training. It is not required. The board chairman is not a gold certified member, and he does not attend any of those trainings to be gold certified. But it's just to give you training just like us as aldermen. As aldermen, the city will pay for us to go to the Elected Officials Academy, Level 1, Level 2. The city will pay for us to go to the Tennessee Municipal League for training. They will pay for us to go to EDC training. There's a lot of options out there that the city will pay for. So FPU is not paying anything above and beyond what the city pays for us as board members. I have spoken to both Mr. Dye and the board chair about my decisions on making some changes on this board. They are fine with that. You know, it has nothing to do with the people that their term is expiring. It's just their time is up. It's just their term has ended. They can be reappointed, or there can be a new appointment. I'm just trying to give you this information to let you know that I have spent time on this. I have, tried to do everything the correct way, and I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes, and there was one time that I didn't give the notice of the appointments within the 15-day period, and so it was just delayed to the next month. I know that Attorney Hill has reviewed this information, has consulted the attorney at MTask, And the one thing that stuck out to me about this, that, the charter does give the mayor the duty. It also gives the alderman the duty to approve or not approve, and they do not have to give me a reason why. But it does state that they should be acting in good faith if they refuse to confirm an appointment. So I just wanted to, open this up if anybody has any comments, anything about this. But, we do need to make changes on these boards. We need to keep these boards up to date. Some people might be reappointed, but it has nothing to do with anyone personally or the job that they have done. So with that, I'll open it up. If anybody has any questions or if you just want to make a comment, that's fine.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm surprised to hear that you said that they were okay with it, because I just came back from a meeting and they were not needed. They said that they would love to keep the board the way it was, and that was from Brett and the chair. So I don't know where you said that you spoke to them. They said it was okay. I just came out of a meeting. We discussed it. And the two members that are up said they would love to stay and be part of it, because they want the time to be invested, because they didn't want any disruption in the board. And it's a good board. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's going through their training. And the training is intense, and Jeff can say it. It really is. It's just not going through and listening to these videos. I mean, when I went to Nashville, it's an all-day class. I mean, it was very interesting, eye-opener.
I think this board's made it clear we all want the two that are in there to stay.
And they've made it clear too. I spoke to them, and they said they would love to stay on the board.
Well, Mr. Dye also stated that an alderman had contacted him, and he told them that it is the mayor's decision, and he is open to whatever the mayor's decision on the appointment is. And sure, not every board wants to keep everybody, but 20 years, 15 years, 18 years, that's a long time on a board. And I know we have some senior aldermen, or in politics anywhere in the state, the government, I think changes are made. So
The meeting that I attended, some of these board members on the co-op have been there for 20, 25, 30 years, actually.
And it's hard to get. The one thing too, when people are asked to serve, I have really worked on this, and I've sought really hard to find good people and people that I think would fit. Not everybody will fit FPU board. Not everybody will fit the library board. Not everybody will fit Main Street. But I try to find the people I think that would work the best with this. It's hard to talk people into being willing to serve on these boards. They've got to give up their family time. They've got to give up their evenings. Most of the meetings are evening meetings. They've got to give up their time. So you put them up, and then they're rejected. They feel in the public, and then they feel like that the city doesn't think that they are qualified. They think
I don't feel that on the two that you've got up, that they're not qualified, but I think the two that are in now are doing a great job.
I will agree.
And I'm not going to remove them for that reason. Nothing against the two people up, so that's my opinion.
Okay, with that said, I will adjourn this meeting.